Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Star Citizen Live Game Dev Lore Builder, The Gangs of Pyro. It's just supersized title for a supersized episode with supersized guests. Joining us on the show this week are members of our esteemed narrative team, folks who create the story, the background, the je ne sais I don't know behind a Star Citizen. Dave, Will, and Adam. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Now, every show is somebody's first show. You know, the Star Citizen community is always growing and whatnot. So before we get into what we're doing today, let's take a few minutes and talk about who you are, what you do for Star Citizen, and whoever that person in the background was.
Oh, that's other CIG employees.
Yep.
Hold on.
We'll start with you, Adam.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
I'll get it going.
I'm going to look down at you like the Brady Bunch.
Adam Weezer. I am a writer, so I support Dave and Will when it comes to any narrative content we need for the PU, Squadron 42, wide variety of topics. So, yeah, just help build out the lore in any way, shape, and form that's needed for the game.
You've been here almost as long as I have. You started just a month after I did.
I believe so. Yeah, like 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Will, who are you and what do you do for Star Citizen?
Hi, I'm Will, and I do for Star Citizen. So I am Will Weisbaum. I'm the lead writer here on the project for both the Greater PU and Squadron 42. For the PU, I'm heavily involved with helping do world building and helping craft missions, and it's kind of the triangle of art, design, and narrative all flowing ideas to one another, and I feel very lucky to be a part of that.
All right. And David, last but certainly not least, who are you? What do you do for Star Citizen?
I am Dave Haddock. I'm the narrative director here on both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, Greater Universe. Kind of do a bit of everything. I've sort of been here a while, so we'll sort of oversee kind of the development of any kind of storylines, characters, starting to kind of help out more with as our landing zones start getting built, working with the AI team on the characters and stuff like that to kind of start listing out what types of people we'd like to see on the planets and how they behave and stuff like that. But yeah, kind of get involved in many pies. King of pies.
It's one of the things, if I can extol the virtues of the narrative team here for a second. Obviously, the narrative team provides context for almost everything that we see in the Star Citizen universe, backstory and much needed texturing, so that you can see why, so for those who are willing to look deeper, they know why these things are there and how they're supposed to work with other things in the world. But one of the things that I really like about your team and the way that it functions within Star Citizen as a project as a whole is it's almost it's also a sanity check. Whenever we want to add something to the Precision Universe or add something to Squadron 42 or whatever, it's always, well, does it fit in with the lore? Does it fit in with the universe that we've established, with the universe that we're trying to build? And it was one of the big surprises when I started here to see that, oh yeah, it's like we don't just add things to the universe willy-nilly. It's got to have some logical place within the overall story that we're telling, and I think that's why besides just the background and texture and all that good stuff, you guys really are essential to the game dev process, especially in a project as big and as massive as Star Citizen. So
yeah.
Well, go for it, Dave.
Well, just real quick. I mean, it was one of those things. It's kind of unusual because of the nature of how we're building the game. This sort of open development is a very unique way to create a universe, because normally, we would just sort of be in hiding and be working on the thing, and designers and gameplay people would be working up concepts and stuff like that, and then we could work with them and stuff and figure out wrappings for all of it and stuff like that. But because the stuff we're introducing the lore as we're building the systems, we're sort of working in tandem with it. So it's definitely a unique way to kind of do it in public. We're creating a universe in public, which is very tricky. But sorry,
I think with Chris's vision for the game of the immersive level is that a lot of times when new ideas are introduced or new gameplay is developed, he wants to know how it fits into the universe, like you were saying, and that's really his passion. So full credit to him for enabling us to function this way as a team. And it's kind of interesting. Of a lot of times we talk about pipelines when we're talking about how Star Citizen comes into being, and narrative is kind of in a unique place that often we're at the beginning and end of pipelines, which is kind of unique to our team, in that we are there at the inception of ideas. And it's never like people are coming to us and we say like, no, that doesn't work. We're a team of like, how about this? Like there is an eye introduced, and then it's just about like sculpting it, shaping it so that it does become a bigger part of the universe. And then at the end, we're there again to put that final polish on it, the naming, the text, all those little details that really bring it to life. So it's a lot of fun.
I like the way you phrased that. We're a project of how about this. And of course, these aren't all the members of the narrative team. We've also not joining us on the show this week because this is just a specific topic here. We've also got Sherry Heiberg, Ben Lesnick, and the ever elusive Mike Kinchella, who has never quite been seen on camera. Yeah, kind of he has been, but not quite. He's very secretive. That guy.
And our intrepid new producer Stephanie Bedford.
Intrepid new producer Stephanie Bedford. Hi, Stephanie. Let's just say hi to everybody.
Not so new anymore, but still.
I've been here for a while now, I guess. I don't know. Time is not a construct I can follow anymore. No. All right. So, what are we doing today?
Well, we thought with the sort of one of the things that actually we've been sort of working on is developing some of the factions theoretically that you could come across in Pyro. So on a high level, so it's it's a lawless system. There is no organized government. So the idea is that there basically be a bunch of criminal groups that are out there, just kind of scrabbling for power or territory and stuff like that. And so as we're building some of these, we thought it would be fun to loop in the community and kind of have the community help us build one of them.
We've done these kind of shows a couple times in the past where we the game dev episodes of SCL are about exploring process and seeing how our developers work, and this is one of our unique chances to see how writers work in a game development process. So yeah, at this point, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to join the peanut gallery and let you guys take it away.
Okay, cool.
I mean, we're going to do this with considerably less screaming than normal.
We talked about starting off with a little bit of an old glimpse at Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy, of just giving the lowdown on Pyro to catch people up who may not be as familiar with the system. Is my screen being shared, Jared?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we got the Pyro system here on our fantastic ArcStar map. And so...
But you're not even going to do the Lore Maker's intro?
Hi, welcome to Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I froze for a second. I'm like, what was our intro?
All right, continue.
So I'll actually go to a working doc. We'll come back to the map in a second. So, Pyro system, it had a kind of a funny discovery in that, a surveyor kind of detected the anomaly of the jump point, but because he was working for a corporation and it got reported up, it was kind of ignored for a while until the company Pyrotechnic Amalgamated was kind of really seeking new territories, and they had remembered like this old scan and stuff, and finally spent the resources to go research it. And at the end of the day, discovered a new system, which would become to be known as Pyro, named after the company who first founded Pyrotechnic Amalgamated. And at the center of it is this main sequence star that has unpredictable solar flares, which made it extremely dangerous at the time when it was discovered in the middle 25th century or late 25th century, because ship technology at the time wasn't as robust as it is now, so it was even harder to travel there.
And one of the things that we sort of said was that it also kind of, with the Second Tavaran War, as we sort of ship technology advanced because of that, and also because of kind of pulling off the idea that like the Tavaran were really good at making shields, was that part of the kind of Tavaran tech that we assimilated when we won might have increased the technology of our ships, so we were able to weather this sort of, flare star type cosmic anomaly type thing.
Yeah, so eventually with the Messers in power, they started doling out mining rights to the various cronies over the years, and it really wasn't ever considered a system to be developed as a place to live because of the harsh conditions, but it was quickly reaped of resources as much as possible over the ensuing decades. And what kept just happening over time would be that more and more jump points were discovered to and from the system, so kind of this forgotten system became a bit of a thoroughfare for a lot of different systems. And I'll bring up the jump points here on the map. And you can see like it's connected to Stanton, and it's which is going to be our first connection to it from the PU, but it's also connected to Terra. It's also connected to Nyx with its more unlawful system. So there was a lot of important, and Hadrian, so a lot of big systems ended up being connected to Pyro, which kind of changed its trajectory. So rather
it definitely
than
made it more important because it was now kind of at a crossroads for a lot of important systems. And again, like, to just from going Terra to Stanton, going through Pyro obviously puts it in a unique position because that makes the journey much shorter, but it puts you through a potentially dangerous, lawless system. So
I want to go ahead and point out real quick that the ARC star map is actually available on the robertspaceindustries.com website. Just because it's been a while since we've done a lore makers, I looked it up. I think we've gained 800,000 new citizens since the last time we did a lore makers. so yeah, that is available now at robertspaceindustries.com/star map. You can check it out. It runs much smoother than we're showing you on Zoom. What you're seeing is Zoom compression for the frame rate.
Yeah, highly recommend
happens.
it. It's a great system to basically kind of wander around some of the systems and get a sense of like what the flavor and lore of each of the planets are, and it's just beautiful to navigate. So if you haven't done it, definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I think you can find it under the apps tab at the very top of the page if you're on the general homepage, and check out the Galactopedia while you're there too for any further info on Pyro or stuff we talk about.
But this combination of all this mining infrastructure that was built, and then as companies would take what they could from it and declined and came into the system, it left a lot of unused infrastructure, kind of combined with its proximity to these wealthier systems, kind of made for the perfect incubation chamber for criminal activity in the system. And so you started seeing squatters and outlaws moving into these abandoned infrastructure and taking it over and using it for various nefarious purposes. And it was later on, after the fall of the Messers, when the system was mostly depleted of resources, that the government officially kind of said, you know what, the system's too far gone. We don't have any use for it anymore. We're abandoning it. And it was officially let loose in the wind. Though there's been kind of recent renewed interest with Stanton Pyro jump point being discovered fairly recently after the discovery of Stanton. So that all of a sudden, with the Stanton becoming such an important system of commerce, it's a much shorter route to get to Terra from Stanton to cut through Pyro, where no one recommends it, but you have people who are willing to do the shortcut, which is introducing a lot more heightened criminal activity into the system. So
yeah, you can't deny that it's definitely the convenience is there. So
we got a couple different planets here, 6 of them that are all various stages of nasty and worked over. But the kind of beating heart of the system is Rune Station, which was the kind of initial heart of Pyrotechnic Amalgamated way back in the day, and now it's seen as the main criminal hub in the system. It's being run by an outlaw group that you may be familiar with if you want to talk about them more, Dave.
Yeah. So, I mean, also just as a backstory too, I mean, one of the things that we sort of say in our usual, whenever a system's discovered, kind of the process that people usually go through is that the first station that they build in the system is usually nearest the jump point through which it's discovered, and they use that as sort of like a launching point hub for prospectors to come in and kind of assess the system and stuff like that. So Rune Station is meant to be that original station. So kind of an old, depleted, kind of terrible place that is still in operation, but now is being sort of fought over by various gang entities and tends to be sort of the seat of power. So right now, the current rulers of it are Xenothreat, who some of you tangled with in Stanton System not too long ago. So they are kind of the reigning power for the moment, at least, on Rune Station. So they're kind of operating out of there. And Xenothreat, for those unfamiliar, are basically kind of a group of ultra-violent kind of a mishmash of sort of outlaws and ex-military who are sort of zealots for anti-UEE, anti-corporate, anti-alien type ideology. So they basically, their target has been the Stanton System. They basically kind of went there with this sort of idea of like, we're showing up as liberators. You all are under the sway and control of corporate masters who run the government and aliens who are trying to subvert humanity and blah 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 blah. And we're here to free you and fight back against them, blah, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, we fought back. So we managed to knock them out of the system, and they went back into Pyro to Rune Station, presumably, and to presumably hatch further, nefarious plans.
Just go sit quietly and hate aliens.
Yeah. They're just kicking rocks and looking really sullen.
So the Xenothreat is a good example of one of the main known outlaw groups that we have in Pyro. And so as we're moving into the system with players, there's going to be a bunch of different groups that we've been developing that they'll interact with. And we're not going to talk too much more about those now because we want to save stuff for you guys to discover when you're actually playing. But we thought it would be fun, since we were still in the development of some of the additional ones, of getting you all, as Dave mentioned at the top of the show, to help us out and watch us as we figure out one of the additional gangs that'll be trying to cut out a living in the harsh system of Pyro.
But also to interject, there is another gang that is in operation in Pyro that you all are familiar with as well. And Adam, you can you've definitely developed this group the most. So
yeah, if you're a subscriber, then you will recognize some of the armors that have been released, called that kind of mimic the look of one of the gangs currently running around Pyro by the name of the Overlords. And they're no one's quite sure what their ultimate goal in Pyro is. They have a vigilante kind of aesthetic to them, where they're hunting other criminal gangs in the system, trying to take them out or mess with them. There's various rumors as to whether they're trying to essentially become the predominant gang in Pyro by just taking out the other ones, or whether there's even some theories that they might be, special ops from the UEE team that's come in covertly as a way to help clear up the system. So it's a little up in the air right now, where as to their ultimate intentions, but they're definitely
badasses.
Badasses. They're very good at what they do, and they are not afraid to shoot first and ask questions later. The manufacturer Doomsday basically leaned into this aesthetic and basically copied their armor, and are now selling it to people in various shades, which represent some of the lieutenants of the gang that are out there and are kind of like known, which you can see Switchback and Predator and Stinger and Riptide are kind of the names they've given themselves. And as a subscriber, you may have some combo of these armors that you'll be able to wear. So yeah, while there is some kind of like lore behind the gang, it was also mentioned briefly in a Jump Point story called Dying Star about basically a young outlaw trying to make his way at Rune Station in the Pyro System, and he has a run-in with the Overlords gang. So there's a framework for the gang that's there, but we figured today would be a good day to discuss a few more of the details and maybe dig into helping us flesh them out a little bit more.
So we won't get into their backstory motivation so much is because that's, again, something that we kind of are saving for you all to discover once you get to work with them and unfold them more. So the mystery of their origins, I think we're going to keep a mystery for today. Like even other people working with them don't quite know what their full deal is.
Yeah, it definitely is more fun. I mean, again, that's kind of what we were talking about earlier about the sort of open development thing. One of the things that for newer viewers, you know, we like to keep things quiet if possible, just because as players we want you to experience this stuff firsthand rather than just us tell you like, oh, by the way, the butler did it, because then it's like you miss that opportunity to kind of, you know, develop the story in real time. So
it also
there will be times where we kind of, you know, hedge our bets and don't tell you stuff.
It also applies to our video content. Sometimes when you're like, why aren't they talking about this, or why aren't they showing this and whatever, it's like we show a lot, we talk about a lot, but we do try to leave some things for discovery when you know, when a patch goes out. It's like we don't ever want to take away that you logging into the game and discovering something brand new, like a vehicle or an event like Xenothreat. So
right. But yeah, so I guess, I mean, I don't know if we want to kick off with the Overlords. I get one of the things that sort of initial questions we want to try to put out to you guys just to kind of get the ball rolling. If we wanted to talk about sort of leadership structure for them, if there was a particular member of the gang that jumped out to you all as sort of feeling the most leaderly. I guess is the
sure. You want to put a poll up?
Sure.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, again, I don't know if there's anything else to discuss. We want to discuss around this. Adam, well, you guys.
So, folks who are watching live on Twitch, you can enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to choose which one of the Overlords that you're currently seeing on your screen would be the current leader of the Overlord gang.
Texting prices may apply.
Doesn't mean it'll stay that way, but at least for some period of time, this will be the leader in charge.
Yeah, I think the Overlords kind of have a very unique place amongst the gangs in Pyro in the way that they're more predatory towards the other gangs. Like other gangs will scrap and have beef for territory and stuff, but so far the Overlords have seemed very non-discriminatory in who they're shooting up, and it's not clear why they're hunting these people down.
Yeah. To me, it's always kind of been one of those things that they feel surgical, that they do when they attack somebody. They have their own reason for it, and it might not be as obvious to other people. Because again, like, you know, if it's just two gangs, normal gangs kind of fighting for territory or something like that, then it's fairly obvious that that's what they're doing. But to give this group a little bit of mystery to them, like, you know, they may hit another gang that's transporting some stuff but leave the goods, and whereas any other gang would have taken the valuables.
I always like the vigilante aspect of it. The when we first introduced these to subscribers, gosh, was it last year or the year before? No, last year.
Time is irrelevant.
Last year. It was back when I was running the program. I'm not running the program anymore. But when we first introduced them, I really liked the vigilante aspect. And folks were like, oh, these guys are just another group of outlaws, of criminals. And I'm like, well, maybe not, people. Vigilante. Batman's a vigilante. When you get down to it, Spider-Man's a vigilante. It doesn't mean you're automatically, you know, a bad guy. So... It's always I was always really stressing that when these armors first came out. It's like a vigilante does not mean you're automatically on you know, the side of evil or good. It just means you're outside the law. That's all that really means.
Yeah.
It might be interesting, like going off of some of the recent reputation work we're doing, is that like with this kind of no allegiance thing that we have, it if you do jobs for the Overlords, that you can earn rep with them, but we give them kind of a quick burn off. So to kind of lean into that no allegiance thing of like, they're just as likely you could be doing jobs for them for a while, but if you don't maintain a relationship with them, then they're more likely to turn on you and being like, you're just another criminal. like you're never able to fully get in with them as like this core tight group, at least from initial stuff, unless you do something special and
yeah, that could be fun, because then it makes it feel like they're a real, like you said, a very tight-knit group, that they don't, they're utilizing other criminals or in the system, but they're not treating them as allies. If that makes sense.
When do you want to call it? Want to call it now? I think we have a pretty clear winner. It looks like Stinger. The yellow is the runaway favorite. It's almost 10% above the nearest competitor. Yeah, I would not have guessed Stinger. I would have guessed Supernova. Supernova was my.
No, I was thinking Predator was going to be the one, but really? I like that. That's yeah, dig it.
Bold statement from a leader to wear yellow too. It's like, come at me. I'm right here.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. So where do we go from here?
Oh, sorry. Let me help update this.
Oh yeah, it's the part of the show where we actually update the document.
No, they live inside Stinger.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misinterpreted.
Thank you.
I didn't realize that's what we were voting on. He is home to all. Yeah, I mean, location-wise, I mean, so basically one of the things that we're trying to do, we're also going to do once we kind of start digging into some of the more original gangs, is kind of work with y'all to figure out, does the gang have a base of operations, a sort of a sphere that's their sort of sphere of influence, like they hang out in Pyro 2 and they attack around Pyro 2, or are they a system-wide thing? I mean, Overlords definitely, to me, feel like they are system-wide, that we don't necessarily know where they're based out of, because it feels dangerous for them, because they're ostensibly kind of kicking the hornet's nest. Because again, I'm sort of thinking about kind of because I've been sporadically rewatching season 1 of The Wire, that sort of Omar vibe of like kind of always on the move, kind of keeping the head low, don't want to attract too much attention, don't want the bad guys to know where you're kind of hiding out, because otherwise they'll just come after you and stomp you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it would be a little complicated, so we'd have to talk to design with it, but maybe the kind of thing where if you do meet with them in person, they use random locations.
A different location, yeah.
Yeah, unlike like Twitch or something like that has that more kind of permanent setup where we could, randomly choose a location, have you meet, or meet in space in the middle of nowhere kind of thing, which would be kind of fun.
Yeah, I wonder if we would be able to do that thing with, it's almost a conversations through Mobiglass first, or like enlisting missions through Mobiglass, and then that leads to
right, because they wouldn't start off with a face-to-face meet. That'd expose them too much. So
yeah, that'd be pretty dangerous. Yeah, that could be really fun. Yeah, also, I mean, again, just I'm kind of throwing out these sort of process things that we tend to consider while we do this stuff. It's one of the things that feels really cool about that, whether we can do it or not, is obviously a conversation we need to have with design. But on the surface, the nice thing about that is, when we ultimately have all of these gangs up in Pyro, we want them all to feel distinctive and unique. So having a kind of hook into, well, the Overlords have this sort of interesting way that they communicate with you via Mobiglass that leads to face-to-face meets, rather than other gangs that might just only do face-to-face meets because, if they want to shoot you in the face, they're going to shoot you in the face type thing. But having that sort of gallery where we have all of these gangs side by side is usually, one of the things that we do is try to figure out, like, what is it that what are they bringing to the table as far as an entity to make this system feel in line with the tone that we're kind of going for in it. So
yeah, and if part of the MO for the gang is that they will hunt other gangs or other outlaws, them being able to strike anywhere is helpful for the reputation. The fact that if you're an outlaw around Pyro 2, you're just as vulnerable as somebody leaving Rune Station, feels appropriate. So
yeah. But yeah, for them, we could have them, I mean, as far as things that they could hire people for, it feels like it's all their MO would be more about disruption of the local gang structures. So, hitting weapon caches, intercepting drug shipments, whatever, assassination missions,
I feel like
What could be interesting? Oh, sorry, Jared, go for it.
I was gonna say, maybe even, maybe even rescue of people that are under siege from other gangs. If they're vigilantes, it's to, if another gang is making a raid, or making an attack or something, it's
Mm-hmm.
is it saving the victim or is it disrupting their raid? Who knows?
Yeah, throwing a banana peel on the floor and seeing who trips.
Yeah. Yeah, and if innocent people are saved along the way, hey, bonus.
Well, because in Adam's story, you can talk about it more of kind of that nice ending at the end. Of
Right.
It.
Yeah, no. As a part of the Dying Star short story, the young criminal does have a run-in with the Overlords. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's just a brief little thing. But yeah, they're not just going to go in and clean house no matter what. There seems to be some consideration over who they go after, and who they spare. That's for sure. So they're a little more thought out than just go in, clear everybody out, and move on. So I like that. I think it adds to the mystery and the mystique behind what's motivating them and what their end goal is.
Yeah, I could see that actually being a part and parcel of their motive, their MO is keep people guessing. So every once in a while, like maybe they do just go and do something that seems weirdly altruistic, and stuff. And it's just like
persona.
Exactly, because it benefits them to always keep people guessing.
Yeah, they become impossible to anticipate because you don't know what they're going to do.
You don't know what they're going to care about from one day to the next.
We could see about doing a thing within the mission types. Like a lot of these are often like an outlaw group will send you to steal drugs from someone else and then bring it to them because it's their drugs and they pay you a cut of it. But like with the Overlords, their main goal isn't to get those drugs themselves. It's just to make sure that the other gang doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So you get to walk away with like this crate full of drugs to do whatever you want with, like
right,
at the end of it. So
or blow them up or whatever.
Yeah, you get to keep what you steal from these other gangs, which would kind of make it a little unique.
Yeah, that's fun. Because you could also do that Joker, Heath Ledger Joker thing of like setting the money on fire type thing. Like they're not trying to get rich off this stuff. They just want it out of circulation.
Oh, that burning plastic smell when you burn credit chips.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. I also wondered too. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is too specific of a conversation to do here, but if we want to do even kind of how to hook into them as an organization, whether it's, I mean, again, like this is a very cautious group. It feels like them just posting a general like, hey, looking for somebody to go blow up a drug cache on on the contract manager feels a little public for them.
Mm-hmm.
RSVP if you're free.
Exactly. Yeah, we're looking to blow up a facility next week if you're available. But that being said, like I'm wondering if maybe what it is we cage it behind sort of like almost an anonymous front, and then you escalate, as you build the rep that it's, it turns, so we can kind of mix their missions in with the standard ones that are around the system, and then so it's the kind of Kaiser Soze thing. Like you don't know that you're doing jobs for the Overlords
right.
until you get to a certain point, and then the Overlords, will do a face-to-face with you. Like you have to build up that kind of trust level, but even then they still don't trust you because you're a criminal.
I really like that idea. The idea that you could be working for the Overlords and not know it.
Yeah, that could be really fun. Again, I don't know if we can do that, but
I mean that's the big caveat on here. This is you're seeing our initial design phase where we throw a bunch of high level ideas and see what works for us, and then we have to go talk to design and hit the realities of kind of our system. And a lot of this stuff, it's not that no, we can't do it. A lot of times it's a little early for us. Yeah, we're planning on getting that system, but if we want to have them in game now, maybe we simplify it at first and then revisit them with doing this more complicated mission structure. So
if only it were as easy as dreaming it.
I do like the idea of seeing how the other gangs in Pyro react to you if it's known that you're working for the Overlords. Like if
Yeah.
Overlords are pissing off everyone across the system, and eventually you work up to your point where it's known that you're an Overlords operative, like it would pretty much like just tank your rep with everyone else in the system.
Yeah, put a large target on your back if you go into Rune Station while it's under Xenothreat control.
Yeah. Again, one of those things is, I guess a question of like how meta it gets is, or omniscient the reputation is, but that sort of thing. Like, yeah, if you're gaining rep with Overlords, you're losing rep with everybody else.
And then you have possibilities, because they're a vigilante gang and because they're disrupting the other gangs. Maybe there's UEE aspects where they can't quite come out and fully endorse it. They can't quite come out and say, yeah, we appreciate you working for the Overlords or whatever. But maybe it's like, I'm not getting arrested when I otherwise maybe should be getting arrested. It's like,
oh, you just happen to meet Advocacy Commissioner Blorden.
Yeah, maybe there's a regional admiral or something for the UE that's just like turns a blind eye when he realizes, oh, you're helping the Overlords out. All right.
Right.
Like, don't get caught. Don't force me to do something.
His daughter starts working for the Overlords. This feels pretty good. Should we? I don't know if there's anything else in particular we want to hone in for this pass here, or whether we want to move to touching on one of the new ones.
We got about 20 minutes left, so.
I think it's a good chunk.
Yeah, and Jared, if you see any interesting Overlord questions pop up in chat, let us know. You can circle back, but yeah,
I can see Stinger as the leader. It'll be good to work up his backstory and how he brought this group of people together.
Yeah.
Which will be revealed to you later if you burn it. So, well.
I would not have thought Stinger. I would have thought Stinger would be the person to just run in and get shot first. But whatever.
They were it. Yeah, I like the yellow black armor color combination. It's cool.
So we have two options that were next up for us to develop in our list, and we thought we would bring them forth and see which name you're most attached to as a community. The Fire Rats or the Dark Side Rovers were the two options that we were going to talk about today.
Yeah, which one feels more exciting off the bat?
Yep, so folks watching on Twitch right now, you can vote by entering 1 or 2 into chat. Whether we're gonna, we don't have a whole lot of time left today, so this may be it. Are we gonna flesh out the Fire Rats, or are we gonna flesh out the Dark Side Rovers?
My money is that Stinger's going to win again.
Yeah. The Dark Side Rovers, of course, being a rare line of solar-powered ground vehicles that can not function in the dark.
They function off moonlight.
If it helps anyone decide, Dark Side Rovers are modern jazz, whereas Fire Rats are contemporary tap. So that's always the first thing we figure out about any gang is
usually it's what kind of dance they're big into.
What their intro music would be.
We just have to wait for this poll to be over. It's awkward, yeah.
We have the Jeopardy theme.
I always do the Monty Python intermission music. The tap intro seems to be making people change their votes.
Oh wow, not a lot of tap fans.
Pro or for?
No.
Against.
To the tap intro.
Oh, okay.
To the tap.
Wow. Okay.
Man,
they're called the Fire Rats because their feet move so fast, like a rat on fire.
Yeah, totally where the name came from.
That popular phrase.
At this point, it doesn't look like it's going to sway much. We've got a 10% lead again for the Fire Rats.
All right, sweet.
Cool.
All right, we'll visit the Dark Side Rovers another day. So Fire Rats. We don't have the real almost nothing for them right now. We know that they see themselves as possibly being the new big uppity ups on Rune Station and that they have,
Contenders.
yeah, and that's kind of going forth for them, and that they're like red and orange.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things, I mean, again, when sort of faced with a lot of question marks by things, one of the by questions, we always go, what's the sort of first look, with this crew? What's kind of interesting? I mean, obviously the name is sort of says a lot about them. We threw in for the colors and symbology that they use kind of reds and oranges, obviously, which could kind of manifest in the clothing. It could manifest in kind of, recommendations for ship liveries, that type of thing, so they become identifiable. But yeah, I mean, I guess, one of the big ways we could kind of hook into them would be, what is sort of their main function? Are they a group of shipjackers? Do they traffic sentience? They stick up boys, enforcers, brawlers. What is their kind of main source of notoriety and income?
Wait, Dave, that sounds like another poll question.
Really?
It's already running, Will.
Wow. What a coincidence. So yeah, we can kind of use that as a kickoff point to jump in and start to further. Again, I think I always use this analogy a lot when talking about this stuff, because it feels like like when you're sketching a picture, you always want to start with kind of the broad big shapes, and then you work into detail. Like it's very easy to fall down a rabbit hole if you work on a very, very minuscule
Right.
like portion of a thing without thinking about sort of how does it all piece together. So
Yeah. These may not be the only thing they're involved in, but we're looking for like a signature element.
yeah.
No, they could dip their toes in many different crime pies. That was okay. But yeah, this will be what they're known for.
I'm just imagining a crime pie is just filled with brass knuckles. I don't know why.
A crime.
You want a bite of my crime pie?
A crime pie is an apple pie that somebody's added raisins to.
Ooh.
That's a crime pie.
Have you ever done apple pie with a slice of cheddar cheese on it?
Well, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of it, I gotta say.
All right. Well, that was it for Dave Haddock. We'll continue on without him.
Wow.
I mean, the other thing that I also tie into is like, we come up with name. Like sometimes it comes the other way. We don't name the name first, and we come up with what the group does and try to have a name that suits them. Or like for these, we came up with a bunch of names that sounded interesting and try to use that as inspiration. So like with the name Fire Rats, you definitely have this sense of like survivors, like with the rat imagery of that they've been kicked around, but they keep coming back, and they have pride in that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, that kind of they're pyro denizens, that they identify the system with the system a lot, because again, obviously pyro fire, but yeah, they are born and bred as an outlaw group here.
Well, we have a pretty clear favorite on these ones as well. Shipjacking has stolen it by a pretty clear margin.
Stolen it?
Shipjacking. Pirate Wong returns.
All right.
That's a really old reference. Most people probably aren't going to get.
Okay, so shipjacking, that is a fun. Well, we could, if we want to. I mean, one of the things that we talked about so if we want to go shipjacking, as far as their location, I mean, obviously we have them trying to usurp control of Rune Station, so we might just put them mostly there. But we could, one of the things we're trying to do with Pyro 3, I think, 3, is kind of have a point of interest on the planet be ship junkyards. So that might be an interesting place for them to kind of have been born from, that that they use this planet was used to sort of like when people would steal ships, they would field strip the stuff that was valuable and then dump the ship on the planet. And so maybe they were sort of almost like, junkyard rat, to stick with the rat analogy.
It'd be real interesting if every once in a while when you grab a ship, sometimes you don't clear it all off or people hide from you. And so you end up bringing it back to your shop and there's these random folks still hidden aboard your ship. and you get these kids and you put them to work and whatever. And so there's just this community of stowaway children who
Jeez, that's dark.
It's like the Island of Misfit Toys, but for children.
Yeah. Oh, it's just isn't that they're having families the traditional way, but I was trying to think about born and bred here, how are they finding themselves here? And so vaguely kidnapped. And if they're young enough, the old shipjackers didn't kill them. Adults you kill, they're a threat, they're a pain in the ass, but the kids you could put to work.
Well, at that point now I'm picturing an Oliver Twist kind of thing with a Fagin, that's
right.
running it, that's running everything.
It just is an option for kind of their backstory. If we're not feeling that, we can move on.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it has a weird Peter Pan thing to me, like the Lost Boys. But yeah, I mean, I think having that sort of thing where it was sort of a group of survivors. The origin of the gang could be a group of survivors who were.
Oh gosh! Now you do a whole Lord of the Flies thing, where they all came from one place, it was a crashed
school bus
Starliner or something, full of kids at one point. They grew up, they were all written off, and they grew up to become shipjackers.
I mean, because I guess the one thing, the tricky thing is the fact that I don't know why they would lose their identity. I mean, unless it's that sort of thing of they become sort of, feral kids. But
once they were adult, why they didn't go back to wherever they were from?
Yeah, exactly.
And, visit their mom and dad.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that they lose who they are. So, but I mean, again, if it's one of those things that if it's, the parents are killed, whoever didn't kill the parents didn't want to kill the kids, and so just sort of dumped them. Yeah. And it was the initial core group of fire rats were this group of kids who sort of found each other, on Pyro 3, and formed a gang because they have nowhere else to go. Because I think that's kind of the important thing if we want to say that they dug in roots here, that they have no other options.
Maybe it would help if we knew what kind of vibe this group was going for.
Right. So sort of whether they are, we want to go kind of Mad Maxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like that could be a poll question.
It's already running, my friend. It's already running, my friend. What kind of vibe these guys going to have? They're going to be wild and crazy? We talking the Czech brothers, Steve Martin and Dan Aykroyd? Nobody will get that reference. Jeez. Wow. Well, maybe some of the people our age. They're going to be intimidating. They're going to be very professional, very clean, very Agent 47 style. They're going to be mysterious, ominous. Or zealots.
Yeah, you can completely change your direction right now, which is totally fine. So
yeah.
That's
what
I
mean,
that's what I was thinking,
sometimes again, that kind of competing stuff can be really interesting because it creates a lot of, how do we piece these two things together to have them make sense can lead to some really interesting.
And you guys don't have to vote for the first option. There's other numbers. There's twos, and there's threes, and there's fours, and even fives.
It's a Friday. Why not go maybe a 5? Yeah.
Let's lose the kid angle because we're not probably gonna have kids.
The character team is going to be like, no, you can't do kids.
But just the idea that every once in a while they bring back someone with them and they just kind of dump them at this junkyard, and if they do work for them, then they'll get food.
Yeah.
And so you just have these kind of people who've spent years here scrabbling together, and then
that could have been their original origin, 20 years ago.
The first two, the founding members of it
Right.
were.
Yeah, the first batch kind of survived that way, and then
Then they built
that-
up an infrastructure.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
before-
that could
before the-
really influence their stance. Like maybe they really hate the slavers
and then
operating in the
yeah,
system.
they'd be the
and,
first
like, with a
batch.
passion.
They'd be the first batch. Then the next batch would have like vegetable powers and electricity powers. Man, if you don't know what I'm talking about there either. Just
And Hulk Hogan shows up to interrupt everything, break the fourth wall.
I knew you guys would get it, but I'm just in a real esoteric mode right now. All right, this one's not even remotely close. It's wild
Bigger?
and crazy.
Wild and crazy.
Wild and crazy.
Okay.
Wild and crazy.
People like those wild and crazy ship jackets.
Yeah.
We are the wild and crazy ship jackets.
I think just to kind of differentiate them, because we do have a sort of wild and crazy group behind the scenes. I'm sort of wondering if how we can spin so they're not sort of like, I keep seeing the sort of cover of the again the Mad Max type thing. If it's almost like, I mean, what you were sort of saying, Will, about like them absolutely hating slavers and that type of thing, where they're kind of hair trigger tempers, that it's not about like splashing yourself with crazy colors and screaming and going kind of all Lord of the Flies on stuff. It's like
Having no patience whatsoever.
yeah, just being like really like scary, like really scary violent kind of short fuse type people. I mean, again, it's tricky. It's not, obviously the Mad Max stuff is super fun and bombastic, but
One of the folks in chat says they're capricious, not insane.
It's going.
Google Docs, do your best. It's right. I hid the screen so they couldn't see how you actually typed it into.
I did it. I got it right though.
No, they didn't see it. They didn't see it.
Give the man the credit.
oh, geez.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting challenge because Mad Max has really like defined that kind of like vehicle like crazy. So like as a challenge as a narrative team to find our own take on that and how do we place them in this world.
Well, what we could, I mean, and I guess because we got 7 minutes left, so what we could do is, like, our last poll, basically, maybe we want to brainstorm basically 3 kind of single sentence descriptions of this group, and then see which one of them you all vibe with the most, and then we take that and we run off and we build it out. But maybe that sort of wild and crazy, no patience, short fuse, capricious, not insane, that can be number 1. So that's one take on it, where they're again, like that sort of hair trigger temper type thing. They will annihilate people if they cross them, or if you violate their code, they will mess you up. But
Okay, so that's one. Capricious, not insane. That's one.
mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I keep coming back to like the fire rats and the name of it of like, and again, this butts into what our design capabilities are to get this into gameplay, but the idea of fire as a weapon that they use, like burning the inside of the ship out as a way to get rid of the people on board, and like because they care about the hull and fixing it up and like that kind of stuff, so they can vent the fire out once they're gone. But it's really about like forcing you to open it up. But I don't know exactly how we're going to cause fires aboard ship purposefully. I know they're supposed to trigger when you overload stuff, and from what I've seen, there's some really cool things that might be able to be happening with fire. But as far as like remotely being able to trigger fires aboard ships. I don't know if that's something that's capable in
Hacking
our
and
universe.
disabling the fire suppression systems.
Yeah, something like
I mean,
that.
this,
But that
this
might be
interesting
too complicated.
because you could, but it could also be that thing too, where it's like it could be a weird spin of like not killing people themselves. It's that sort of like, well, we didn't kill them, the fire did, type thing. Like they use fire as, again, it's a, like you said, kind of a cleansing wash thing, and they can just set a fire and then like put their hands over their ears until the screams go away, and then they now have their ship. So it puts a weird spin on it where it's like they're violent, not violent. They don't like killing people, but they'll burn out the inside of a ship in order to, claim the ship. I mean, I don't know how it manifests outside of just that one behavioral tick. And just to throw it out, I had a weird idea for the third one that was actually a combination of sort of the wild and crazy and the zealot thing, but also feeding off of the fire rats thing. Was if they were that sort of, there's that sort of almost a weird kind of quasi cultish fervor about the purification of flame type thing, that they are, there's this sort of thing about Pyro sort of as a system manifests their worldview as, the you don't know when the star will flare up, so you don't know when your time can come at any moment type thing, that
The
they trust
unpredict-
themselves. Yeah, the unpredictability.
unpredictability of Pyro's star, influences their personal unpredictability.
I mean, we could do a thing like where we've been talking, we're still exploring about how the stars flares affect ships and have that kind of thing. So they could be like a group that specializes in picking up ships that aren't prepared to meet the sun's like gaze. Like the flare goes off and then they swoop in to do their ship jacking afterwards while the ships are still reeling from the
they
solar
take advantage
flare.
of the fact that the ship is disabled
Yeah.
or hurt.
Yeah, if they had extra strong shields to protect their ships from it, but they know they can pry on other ships. That's
Or they're all kind of burned up. They look like Mark Strong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in Sunshine. Yeah.
Yeah.
The what did you see? Type stuff. But yeah, that's almost that kind of weird cultish, like, yeah, they they have this sort of weird fanatical following of fire and flame, and it is a sort of tempestuous master. Could be kind of interesting because it definitely makes them kind of wild and crazy, but kind of weirdly focused and in their sort of mania, and that could be how they indoctrinate new members, is that sort of weird thing of purification through flame or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, there could be like this weird idea in lore, like maybe the fire rat was an actual fire rat, that some of the ruins on like Pyro 1 or Pyro 2 where Pyro 3, like if a rat is caught outside during one of these flares, that they can like sometimes burst in fire and run around. And so like
And survive.
Yeah, and there's like fire rats or a thing. Oh, we should do a poll.
Already running.
Oh, geez. I wish we could firm these up more. We're running out of time. If I had a little bit longer. The idea 3 is very, very clean. The Cult of the Sun. Idea 2 and 1 are kind of bleeding into each other a little bit for my taste. I would want to separate them out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And the fire to clear ships, I'm not even sure we could do. So it's not. But don't vote for idea 2. That's what I'm saying.
Basically, 1 is capricious but not insane. Number 2 is violent but not murderous, which I think is a different enough that you can build from that. And then 3 is the purification of flame.
I mean, just to change it mid-poll, like maybe the 1 is like, because like the Mad Max people have all been like indoctrinated and you put on these like masks to be really intimidating, and maybe the wild and crazy part is growing up. Like if they were these like stranded, at least the start of them, their cultures, these stranded people here, growing up in these scrapyards trying to survive, has actually made them slightly unhinged. So they're like wearing normal clothes, but like they're kind of not all together. Is more the vibe of like the risks they're willing to take you know, the pressures they're willing to do, and kind of that thing of the short fuse, the willing to like turn on a second, is just because of how they've had to fight to survive on this harsh
Yeah,
world.
it's that sort of, you have to react or die. That type of,
Well, I don't think this one's. We don't even need to run this anymore. This is like 70%. The purification of flame.
Oh,
All right,
Cool.
idea 3. They voted for not a 1. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll work on this idea more. It's a pretty fun little thing, and like kind of a rival cult with the Xeno threats. Like,
yeah,
it's
different
interesting.
ideology, but similarly zealot based.
That's great. That was very
Awesome.
helpful. Thanks for helping us come up with
Yeah.
this cool outlaw group.
And we'll just start doing this daily. And
Same time tomorrow. Let's all meet here.
Don't do that to me.
Just-
I can't. I
we'll
can't.
send over our Jiras, and we can just knock this all out.
We used to do 5 videos a week back in 2015, and it almost killed me. We're not doing that ever again. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy weeks, your busy schedules, to be here on the show with us this week. Of course, as backers who follow the project know, Star Citizen Alpha 3.13 is currently working its way towards a live release. It's currently in the Evocati, but we anticipate a potential movement to the PTU imminently. I'm not going to be any more specific than that because I've been doing this long enough. I'm not going to sit there and be like, yeah, it'll be here, because that's just not the way any of this works. But it is imminently. Teams around the world are working to get it out into the PTU as quickly as possible. And then, of course, it'll wind its way through PTU Wave 1, PTU Wave 2, all that stuff like that, until it makes its way into the live servers. So keep an eye out for that. For Dave, for Will, for Adam, I'm Jared. I wish that was a joke, but it wasn't. That was just a complete boop, boop out of the brain. For Adam, I'm Jared. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Well,
Bye, everyone.
Yeah. No, I was just like, usually I'm mean at the end as a joke, but that was just.
Oh, it fit into your
Just
normal.
mean on, yeah.
Well, I was gone. I lost it.
Well, I felt as a joke.